Embark on a compelling journey into the realms of intrigue, friendship, and the unexpected twists of fate that shape our lives. Follow the protagonist and his legal counsel on a transformative path towards new beginnings. Delve into how fortuitous encounters, resolute decisions, and the strength of friendship can alter the course of destiny and lead to unforeseen consequences. This narrative illuminates how courage and determination can transcend even the most challenging circumstances, opening doors to a new life. The most advantageous aspect of attending my wife's office party was the opportunity to engage in a spirited competition with my challenger. The most challenging aspect was the realization that the faster I drove, the sooner I would arrive. I accelerated as rapidly as possible, eager to reach the meeting. It was scheduled at a remote cabin in the woods, situated on a 20-mile stretch of uninterrupted road. There were no stop signs, no stop lights, and no traffic. The road was simply an open expanse, awaiting the arrival of the Dodge Challenger. This also meant that there were no gas stations or convenience stores in the vicinity. At the time, Donna and I had been experiencing a gradual but noticeable shift in our relationship. Since our daughters got married, I had hoped for the opposite outcome, but it was not to be. Donna insisted that I accompany her to this ceremony, despite my clear indication of my lack of desire to do so. She had previously attended alone, whereas I did not frequently drink alcohol. On occasion, I consumed beer. She was sociable, whereas I was not. For the previous year, I had suspected that she was engaging in an extramarital affair. By this time, I had ceased to care. I believe that this was one of the reasons for the deterioration in our relationship. I was merely biding my time, searching for a means of extricating myself from an unpalatable relationship. I required a solution that would allow me to bring the relationship to a conclusion. I must concede that I was probably the reason my wife decided to pursue a more fulfilling lifestyle. I adhere to a minimalist lifestyle. I was raised in a financially disadvantaged family. My brothers and I had significantly fewer material possessions than most children our age, including items such as bicycles, toys, pets, and electronic gadgets. Our circumstances were akin to those of the Amish, albeit without the religious aspect. I was not lacking in intelligence and was aware of the nuances of the external world. I was fully cognizant of the norms and conventions of the conventional world, yet I found myself unable to fully embrace them. I was aware of the importance of financial responsibility, including the necessity of avoiding debt, meeting obligations, and setting aside funds for retirement. I recognized that minimalism, like any philosophy, requires a degree of commitment and adherence. It is important to maintain a sense of normalcy by allowing oneself a few indulgences. My greatest challenge was finding a partner who could tolerate my eccentricities and accept my uniqueness. Donna and I shared a similar background, and she was accustomed to a modest lifestyle and initially struggled to adapt. However, as time passed and our marriage grew stronger, she began to accept my choices more readily. While she did become less frugal, I found this change disappointing. Nevertheless, I respected her decision, particularly after the birth of our daughters. We purchased a modest, practical house and I began to wear more sophisticated attire, and Donna occasionally had her hair styled, becoming quite proficient at grooming and makeup. We acquired 2 smartphones from last year's models as the girls grew older. Donna began working, and her employment was in a minimum wage position. Transportation was a necessity, so we purchased her a small Honda Civic. Similarly, her salary was sufficient to cover the costs of vehicle maintenance, lunches, and a new wardrobe. My name is William Smith, a name that is relatively common. I am employed by a local company that manufactures industrial compressors. The work is monotonous, but I am content with my position and salary. Occasionally, I was presented with the opportunity for advancement, but I declined. I did not inform Donna about my extramarital affair. I kept this information from my wife and my wife from me. I deemed it wise to invest in retirement savings whenever possible. I purchased gold in the amount of 1 ounce and accumulated more than 30 units in my safe deposit box. I was just beginning this endeavor when I finally permitted myself to purchase a 1970 Dodge Challenger. Donna was a highly competent employee at Gilbert Industrial, receiving regular bonuses and promotions in her first year. She frequently discussed her work, but this gradually ceased. Currently, she rarely mentions her job or the people she works with. I was aware of something being amiss, but I was unable to discern the cause. I had hoped to gain a deeper comprehension of the circumstances surrounding this situation. The gathering was somewhat of an excursion, a weekend event that I had not anticipated attending. I had previously been involved with all of her companions to some extent and had not formed a positive impression of any of them. We exited the highway in Holbrook, and I was finally able. Donna was uneasy about the speed at which the Challenger was accelerating, yet she remained silent. I was aware that I was exceeding the speed limit, but I was indifferent to the matter. There was no urgent need to reach our destination, we had sufficient time. Why not reduce our speed slightly? I was not eager to arrive at our destination. In fact, I was reluctant to go at all. I was merely using this time. The engine requires cleaning. It is necessary for a vehicle to undergo such maintenance from time to time. I kindly request that you refrain from negatively influencing my emotional state. This weekend is of significant importance to my career. I am uncertain as to why I am expected to attend this corporate event. I am not fully aware of the implications of my new position within the company. Therefore, I am unable to provide the necessary support and attention to fulfill my role effectively. I require the attention and support to fulfill my professional obligations. I am uncertain as to why I am still unclear on this matter. I am confident that Mrs. Simpson will be able to clarify it when we arrive. Marge Simpson was the spouse of company president Glenn Robertson Simpson. The family was wealthy and had a long history in the business. I have consistently supported you in the past. What has prompted this change in attitude? The position has a number of distinctive responsibilities. Marge advised that one should gradually become acquainted with them in order to gain a comprehensive understanding. While initially challenging, she assured me that by the time we reached the lodge, I would have a firm grasp on the subject matter. My adrenaline was rapidly increasing. It would be reasonable to posit that Donna was attempting to convey a certain message, and that the weekend in question was likely to prove interesting. Upon our arrival at the lodge, Donna proceeded to enter the premises, leaving me to assume responsibility for the luggage. I was conscious of feeling somewhat under pressure. I must say, those wheels are rather impressive, I commented to Toby Wallace, who was the only employee in the office that I considered to be anything approaching decent. "Hello Toby, I hope you are well," I said, introducing myself to him. Toby introduced me to his wife, Bonnie. They were situated on the front porch, yet it appeared that the majority of the other individuals were situated inside the building. I surveyed the parking lot and estimated that there were approximately 16 cars and one dilapidated truck situated at the end of the lot. For the subsequent 5 minutes, we engaged in a discussion about the Challenger. "Outside, why aren't you and Bonnie inside with the others? They are not our kind of people. Mr. Smith, we had hoped to leave early, but Mrs. Simpson insists we stay. We arrived early today to help set things up, but all the vendors left about an hour ago. You will have to explain yourself. What is going on? There is something suspicious. However, I am uncertain as to the precise nature of the situation. I do not wish to cause you any distress, but I believe it may be connected to your wife. Are you planning to remain at the venue throughout the weekend?" "No, that is why I have parked my vehicle on the roadside, so that I will not have to concern myself with the matter when we depart. The situation is becoming increasingly intriguing. I must now take my leave. Please bring these items to our room. Let me know before you leave, if you would be so kind. I will do my utmost to ensure your safety, but I must advise you not to engage in any reckless behavior." I was fortunate to have only 2 small bags with me when I entered the cabin. Mrs. Simpson caught my eye, smiled, and waved. Donna was waiting for me at the top of the stairs and seemed somewhat displeased at the delay. It has taken an inordinate amount of time to gain access. It is now time for Bill to prepare for the evening. He should clean himself and put on something presentable. It is going to be a special night, and it should be perfect. If it is not too much trouble, Bill should take a walk around the house to calm down. He will be right back. I observed a slight chill in the air as I exited the room. My estimation was that there were approximately 16 vehicles present, the majority of which were Mercedes, Jaguar, and Lexus models. 4 of the vehicles had license plates that appeared to be from an earlier era. I was somewhat perplexed by the apparent discrepancy between the social status of the women in my wife's position and the caliber of individuals present. It was possible that she might be able to associate with people of this caliber. They were undoubtedly above our level. Something was not right. I observed Toby and Bonnie loading their bags into the truck. I waved and walked over to chat. I saw that Mrs. Simpson had decided to let you go. Not quite. We are gradually slipping away. I am not at ease in this situation, Mr. Smith. Toby suggested that we remain, but I dissuaded him. Bonnie interjected, requesting that I remain until the conclusion of the buffet that evening. I am also somewhat uneasy, and I would be grateful if you could stay. I am uncertain about the circumstances, but I am not pleased about it. I am reminded of the adage that great minds think alike. They are similar, Bonnie. She blushed slightly at my feeble attempt at humor. I believe we can. They will be crabs and oysters by this point. Toby, I think I will enjoy it. I dressed as my wife insisted before we reached the buffet. The hostess took me under her arm and led me into a quiet alcove. We are so pleased I have decided to attend tonight in order to offer my support to Donna. This is a significant career milestone for her, and it is important that she has your full backing. The pay and benefit increases are substantial, and I am confident that you will be pleased with this development. I apologize for asking, but could you clarify which position we are discussing? Donna was somewhat evasive when I asked her about it. I inquired about the matter, but she typically dismisses me with a wave and instructs me to await further information until tonight. I believe she is simply attempting to maintain your surprise, William. You have yet to respond to my question. There is no official designation, one might simply refer to her as the personal assistant. I see. The buffet appears appetizing. I am grateful for your assistance. The explanation provided by Mrs. Simpson was as follows. Please refer to me as Marge. I spent the subsequent hour or so attempting to utilize the full functionality of the device. Donna was otherwise engaged in socializing with individuals of importance, thus affording Toby, Bonnie, and myself a slight increase in the amount of time we were able to spend together. We were in the process of packing up when Mrs. Simpson arrived. William, Donna informed me that you had visited that evening. In your sports car, I inquired as to whether you could take us out for a brief excursion with a beverage. I smiled and nodded. There are 3 cases of wine at the ABC store in Holbrook. They have already been paid for, so all you have to do is come and pick them up. There should not be any problems, but if there are, just give me a call. Be sure to bring your cell phone. I would be happy to, Marge. I will let Donna know, and I will be on my way when she left. I looked at Toby. I will meet you outside in 5 minutes. Donna only smiled when I informed her that Mrs. Simpson had asked me to help her. Her only comment was, don't forget your phone. Interestingly, they both emphasized the same thing. Toby, I need a favor. He smiled as I tossed him the keys to the Challenger. Are you serious? Go to Holbrook and buy 3 cases of wine from the ABC store for Mrs. Simpson. I have a feeling there might be some kind of problem that will cause a delay, if you understand. Toby smiled and nodded. Here is my cell phone. Please place it on the dashboard. If it rings, do not answer it. Under no circumstances should you turn it off. How long do you require us to be absent? At least 2 hours, and it would be advisable to fill up on gas before you head back. Enjoy your time away. It was a little chilly outside, but I had thoughtfully put on a comfortable jacket. I now had to wait and watch from various spots on the back porch. I could. It would have been advantageous to have a thermos of coffee, but this had not been foreseen. I located a position from which I could observe the interior of the cabin without being seen. Donna found herself the focus of attention, smiling, laughing, and displaying the mannerisms of a celebrity after approximately 20 minutes. Mrs. Simpson and Donna were examining Donna's cell phone with great interest. I was aware of their intention to ascertain my location. I am grateful to Toby for enabling me to reach Holbrook. Mrs. Simpson and Donna smiled as the latter raised her hand and began to speak. Unfortunately, I was unable to discern the content of their conversation, but it appeared to be met with approval by those in the room. It was as if they were offering a silent ovation. Glenn Roberts and Simpson approached Donna and took her hand. They proceeded to ascend the main staircase and paused. He raised his and her hands in a gesture that seemed to convey triumph. They both as they ascended the staircase, I could discern the sound of mirth emanating from the assemblage. After approximately an hour and a half, the challenger returned. I elected to take my time and savor the experience. I always carried with me a reliable penknife of fine steel with a keen blade. I surveyed the scene and resolved to commence with the automobiles situated in closest proximity to my lodging. I was not in a hurry, there was no need for haste. I meticulously placed each valve stem within my jacket pocket, determined to safeguard them from loss. I was reluctant to clog the driveway to the Simpson house, which was home to 16 cars and 64 valve stems. With almost an hour remaining, I was uncertain about the best course of action. 4 of the cars were locked, while the remaining ones were unlocked. I therefore began with the cars closest to the lodge and took down the registration sheets. Some were on the visors, but most were in the glove compartments. I was unsure of my ultimate purpose for these sheets, but I reasoned that they might prove useful. In the interim, it was still 30 minutes until Toby's return. I thus resolved to strip out the valve stems on the spare tires, given my access to the cars. After 20 minutes, I had 10 more valves. 2 cars lacked spare tires. While this may seem trivial and juvenile, I derived a modicum of satisfaction from it. I am not inclined toward confrontation, and thus all my actions, or intended actions, were deliberate and calculated. I did not possess self-esteem. I was experiencing difficulties with my self-esteem, so I did not feel the need to present myself in a way that would be perceived as manly or heroic. 20 minutes later, the challenger returned. Toby and Bonnie appeared to be enjoying the ride. He confirmed that there was indeed a delay at the ABC store, as I had expected. It seemed that the delay had been while they were absent. I planned for their return. I did not contact them, I turned off my phone and removed my SIM card. They were eager to return home promptly. I thanked Toby, wished him a pleasant journey, and advised him to secure alternative employment with minimal delay. The cost of the wine was likely considerable, but that issue was readily resolved. I placed all 3 crates on the porch of the Gatt house. I was keenly aware that I did not want to be accused of theft. The ride home was relaxing. I had determined that there were few items in the house that were important to me, including a few personal papers and a laptop. Initially, I considered setting the house on fire before I left, but I quickly realized that this would have made Donna a martyr. I was not interested in causing her additional distress. 2 hours later, I commenced my journey. I did not feel the need to leave a traditional note or wedding ring, allowing her to address the situation as she saw fit. I was not in a hurry and had no specific destination in mind. I had been on the road for 2 days. On Monday morning, I called my workplace and informed them of my intention to leave. I requested that my final salary payment be sent to my parents in Carlisle, who were not aware of my plans. I was gratified that I had departed without prior notification. I offered my apologies but did not provide an explanation. I was able to rely on the customary breakfast at Waffle House on my departure. I purchased the local newspaper and discovered an intriguing advertisement for a local supermarket that was seeking assistance. They were recruiting an individual to assist with stocking shelves between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The hours in question were 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. After breakfast, I proceeded to the market, situated in an eclectic, historic district of Chattanooga. I spent the subsequent hour exploring the surrounding area, noting the prevalence of traditional craftsman-style cottages and a modest number of mobile homes. While I contemplated the possibility of residing in a compact trailer, I was ultimately seeking a more permanent arrangement. I subsequently discovered a sign offering to rent a garage apartment. I had not yet inquired about a job, but I was reluctant to lose the garage apartment. The garage was not included in the price, but when I offered an additional $50 per month, they agreed to rent me a small one. The apartment was a bedroom with no shower, furnished with a bed, dresser, table, and chairs. The rent was reasonable, and the apartment was suitable, so I accepted it. I would address the bathroom issue at a later date. At least I had a garage for the challenger. The situation at the supermarket was somewhat different. They had plenty of challengers, but not so many that I was able to secure the position by demonstrating that I was willing to work for no benefits and at a rate below what they had initially proposed. They did not inquire about my social security number, and I was subsequently offered the position. A brief excursion from my apartment led to the establishment of a new residence. The landlord furnished me with an access code to his internet, which was a convenient arrangement. Following a brief visit to the local Goodwill, I had acquired a small microwave and a variety of kitchen supplies. That evening, I terminated my insurance policies and opted not to engage with my bank or credit cards. I reasoned that neither entity could inflict significant harm, given the circumstances. My daughters were married, which made my departure somewhat easier. I do not yet have grandchildren, but I am confident that this will not be a significant amount of time. I contacted my daughter Lara to inform her that I was doing well. I requested that she be available to assist her mother if necessary. Laura was aware that I had departed, but Donna did not provide her with any additional information. She promised to inform her sister, Linda, of the situation. I deleted all calls from my wife and turned my phone off again. I needed to take a shower. Perhaps tomorrow would be a more opportune time to address this matter. I needed to locate a secure location for my gold. I was aware that what I possessed was not deemed essential, yet it held a peculiar significance for me. I obtained a safe deposit box in Huntsville, Alabama. I hoped that it would not be linked to me in Chattanooga. Of course, I was mistaken, but I wished to at least attempt this. The drive was nearly 2 hours, but that was my estimation of the time it would take to reach the apartment was reasonably secure, but I installed a new deadbolt and heavy-duty lock to provide additional protection. I was able to settle into my new job relatively quickly and had a colleague working with me for the first 3 nights. After the first 2 weeks, I was largely independent. The membership cost $20 a month, which was a worthwhile investment. I joined the Planet Fitness Club, which provided a convenient solution to my showering needs. I typically started work at 10 a.m. Monday. My workday concluded at 6 p.m. The next activity was a 20-minute jog or 30-minute walk. I initially utilized the shower at Planet Fitness, but subsequently began incorporating exercise equipment into my routine. By the conclusion of the first month, I was engaged in a 2-hour workout regimen on a daily basis. I experienced an improvement in my overall well-being and a reduction in body weight. Despite never considering myself overweight, I was somewhat corpulent. I was gratified by my new position, which was characterized by a lack of variety but also a distinct shift in my professional trajectory. It is challenging to articulate the nuances of this experience, but I am confident that you will grasp its essence. I performed my duties at the gym and was largely left to my own devices. Furthermore, it was a prudent decision. I selected the exercises I enjoyed and avoided those I found less appealing. I did not have a television, but I did have a used desktop computer with a high-quality monitor. I did not prepare meals frequently, but I noticed a shift in my eating habits, albeit inadvertently. After 3 months, I felt better and had lost weight. It was time to reconnect with my daughters. This time, I called Linda. The purpose of this communication is to ascertain your well-being. I am pleased to inform you that I am doing well and have no concerns. I am contacting you to inquire about your mother's condition. I am happy to report that she is thriving. She has recently received a promotion at work and is deeply invested in her role. However, she is upset with you. She stated that you left her at the celebration for her promotion and subsequently departed the event. She also accused you of being envious of her success. She expressed regret for her actions but stated that there was nothing she could add until she was ready to tell the truth. She also informed me that things were challenging without my income, but that her recent promotion had allowed her to cope. I expressed my happiness for her, but she did not mention anything about her new job beyond the fact that she was earning more money and traveling frequently. I did not respond immediately. Linda inquired as to whether I would be returning home for the Christmas holiday. I informed her that I did not anticipate doing so. I will attempt to send a gift for you and Laura. However, I was met with a response indicating that they would prefer to have me present. I expressed my regret at having to depart, and then proceeded to bid farewell to Lara. I was experiencing a sense of despondency, as though my daughters did not fully comprehend the circumstances and attributed blame to me for the difficulties they were facing. I was not at ease. I did not feel the need to justify my actions. It was evident that my wife did not feel any remorse. I felt a sense of bitterness towards my daughter, who seemed to be coping well without me. I was perplexed by her desire for me to return home. I spent the weekend in a state of despondency, and my beer consumption increased as the weeks passed. I discovered that things were progressing. I was performing well in my role and received a promotion. The store's general computer system was already performing the tasks I was responsible for, but my contributions were appreciated nonetheless. My accommodations were ideal for my situation and well within my budget. I experienced a reduction in weight and began to build muscle in a healthy manner. I began to view the six-pack as an attainable goal. I ceased shaving and began to grow a full head of hair, which I styled in a small ponytail. My overall appearance underwent a significant transformation, and I began to appear somewhat intimidating. My gym workouts became more challenging and longer in duration. Interestingly, I also developed a few acquaintances at the gym. I was extremely cautious with women because I was concerned about potential conflicts with men. Despite this, we engaged in friendly banter with each other on a regular basis. However, an unexpected alliance emerged. Her name was Harry, although that was not her real name. She was not particularly sociable and rarely spoke to anyone. Interestingly, she was the only person who was not hostile towards me. She attended the gym every morning and worked out for at least 2 hours. In the morning, she engaged in a rigorous workout regimen that lasted at least 2 hours. It was not a typical yoga session, but rather a more intense form of exercise. She appeared to be approximately 45 years of age, with a robust physique. She consistently wore sweatpants and a sweatshirt, in contrast to the other women, who often showcased their physiques in tight latex and skimpy attire. She did not appear to be particularly hairy. I was the only male in the entire facility with whom she interacted or made eye contact. I did not encourage such behavior. But I did not pursue her. To be frank, I was somewhat flattered. Several months elapsed without contact from my daughter or wife. I was unable to initiate communication. I made multiple trips to Huntsville to expand my Kruger-Rand collection. Then, circumstances shifted. "William, may I speak with you?" This was not a typical opening line with Harry was to address me as William, whereas the other boys called me Bill. In fact, she had never called me by my first name before. Of course, I'm happy to help in any way I can. As it happens, we sat down on a bench and made ourselves comfortable. I have a corporate meeting I have to attend on Friday night. Furthermore, I require an escort. I will cover all expenses, and I simply request your company. I observe that you do not operate a motor vehicle, so I will also provide transportation if necessary. I can reimburse the expenses. I stammered, and she promptly identified my error. "I am truly sorry, did I say or do something inappropriate?" "No, not at all. It's just that I have a few issues in my past, so to speak. If you are able to circumvent these issues, I would be delighted to assist you." "What are the challenges?" "I am currently lacking the appropriate attire, including a suit, jacket, shirt, and regular shoes. I do not require these items, so I do not possess them. I am confident that I can resolve this issue in a week. I work nights, but I believe I can arrange a free night. I am pleased that you intend to address this problem. What other challenges remain?" "You request that I shave William. I appreciate his beard and hair, but he is somewhat unkempt. Would you prefer that I consult with my stylist on Friday afternoon?" I smiled and nodded, indicating that it was acceptable. This marked the beginning of my professional relationship with Harry, who is professionally known as Harriet Parker, attorney at law. On Tuesday, I found myself at Yosh, A. The financial institution was not a particularly luxurious establishment, but it was of a higher caliber than any other I had previously visited. Harry had arranged my visit in advance, and I ended up purchasing 2 pairs of pants, 2 sports jackets, a couple of shirts, and some ties. I felt a slight sense of apprehension as I added 2 turtleneck shirts to the pile, as I had always liked them and thought they would look good with sport coats. On my return journey, I purchased a new pair of shoes and underwear. The shoes were moccasin style, yet still stylish. My visit to the stylist on Friday was satisfactory. The gentleman who attended to me was affable and performed his duties well. He left me with a neatly trimmed beard and a ponytail that was cut into a short, modified mullet. He trimmed my beard and transformed my ponytail into a modified mullet, which I believe is the correct term, although I am unsure. He assured me that it would be much easier to maintain. I liked it, but he did not discuss Harry much. He did, however, say that I was lucky that Harry showed up at the apartment at 6 sharp. She did not exit the vehicle, but gave a short squeak. The Lexus looked. I was aware that my appearance was incongruous with the prevailing style of my neighborhood. I was wearing a gray jacket and a gray turtleneck. I considered myself to be aesthetically pleasing, although I lacked a frame of reference. I was grateful that she was driving, as I was unfamiliar with the roads in town. Harry, before we proceeded, could you please elucidate precisely what I should and should not do tonight? The initial hour or so will likely entail socializing. You are not required to engage in such activities. It would be prudent to avoid becoming unduly distressed by the presence of those who adopt a superior attitude towards sensuality. It would be advisable to avoid such individuals if possible. It is of the utmost importance that I am kept close to you and that you avoid any contact with those who adopt a superior attitude towards sensuality. It would be advisable to remain out of sight but to avoid any form of intimidation. It is essential that I am always in possession of a drink, preferably ginger ale or mineral water. It would be beneficial to maintain a friendly demeanor and it is important to remain pleasant and not lose your composure. It is advisable to allow others to believe that we are a couple. I had never considered myself to be that kind of person. I lack experience in this area. Are you able to handle it? I replied, will they feed us in about an hour? We will each receive a plate of a rubber chicken, priced at $500, after a few speeches. Once that is over, they will provide us with something else. You look. It was at this juncture that I became aware of my failure to offer her a compliment regarding her attire or her hairstyle. I was acutely aware of my lack of experience in such social situations. The initial phase of the evening proceeded in a manner consistent with her description. My assigned role proved to be less onerous than I had anticipated. The room was populated by a multitude of single men, all attired in expensive suits and brandishing substantial timepieces. Harry, in particular, was quite adept at navigating the social landscape. Many of the men in attendance were aware of her status as a single woman. Consequently, a number of them initiated brief conversations with her. These interactions could be described as exploratory in nature. I observed that I was casting sideways glances at the men in question, reminiscent of the character Charles Bronson. Interestingly, this approach proved effective on each occasion. Each time I excused myself from her company to replenish her drink, another man attempted to engage her in conversation. Some of them brought her drinks, which she then handed to me to dispose of. Harry glanced at me a couple of times and sort of smiled. Finally, we sat down. The chicken lunches that were served were of poor quality. I am not what you would call a picky eater, but this was different. I kept thinking about the $500. I asked her if she wanted to leave, but she did not. I awaited her response. I then stood up, took her hand, and departed the premises quietly. It appeared that no one even noticed our entrance into the garage. She removed her footwear and tossed me the keys to the Lexus. Locate us some substantial sustenance, she instructed. 20 minutes later, we arrived at Village Willie's. Each of us had a full plate and a glass of beer as we dined. As we ate, I observed one peculiar detail. Her evening gown had long sleeves, which was unusual for most women's dresses, which typically had short sleeves or no sleeves at all. She was also barefoot, which was a notable departure from the norm. However, she did not seem to be bothered by this at all. Things quickly returned to normal. My evening with Harry was pleasant, though it did not end in any intimacy. We continued our usual relationship at the gym. 3 weeks later, Harry had another appointment that I was subsequently required to provide an escort, which I duly agreed to do. I felt obliged to explain the situation to my superior, who found it quite amusing under the circumstances. He informed me that I was not required to seek permission to take a vacation, I was simply expected to leave him a note. He more or less told me that I was responsible for my own time and should treat it accordingly. The exercise regimen at the gym was quite rigorous. Her heart rate was elevated, and she was perspiring slightly. She typically wore full clothing, while the majority of other gymgoers wore sports bras and shorts. Harry, on the other hand, wore sweatshirts and long pants. The rationale behind this attire choice was unclear, but it was not a topic I felt inclined to pursue. Our second night was similar to the first, with the exception of the absence of food. The availability of alcohol led to an increase in the number of individuals approaching my companion. It became necessary for me to collect and dispose of used glasses throughout the evening. One particularly obnoxious individual persisted in his harassment, so I informed him in a calm but firm manner that any further harassment of my fiancée would result in severe consequences. His behavior ceased immediately. For the remainder of the evening, I was unaware that I had become so formidable. Following the meeting, we proceeded to consume $40 worth of sushi. It was another enjoyable, platonic evening. 2 days later, Harry caught me off guard while I was rowing. He inquired as to why I had not informed him of our engagement. I was somewhat embarrassed when one of my co-workers inquired as to whether I had received an answer, but I merely smiled. I contacted Laura, who informed me that Donna had been evasive and that Linda was aware of only Donna's frequent travel and the regular occupants of the house. I inquired as to whether her mother had filed for divorce, but she was unaware that several weeks had elapsed since she and Linda had last communicated with Donna. As I consumed more alcohol, my anger intensified. The following morning, I mailed 74 valve stems to Glenn Simpson at Gilbert Industries. I included a brief note expressing gratitude for a pleasant evening. It had been over a year since that gathering, yet I was confident he would recall it. I opted to forego my usual gym routine that day, as I was reluctant to engage in physical activity with a hangover the following day. I felt compelled by Harry to provide an explanation. I promised to divulge the details to her at our next scheduled dinner. She picked me up at 6 p.m., Harry escorted me to Chris's Steakhouse, an establishment of a distinctly higher caliber than the one I had previously frequented. She listened attentively, offering no commentary or criticism. I returned to my apartment just in time for the commencement of my work shift the following day. At the gym, Harry posed another query: do I know anyone who was present at the cabin on the night in question? I informed her that I had the names and addresses of all those who were present. After our training session, she visited my residence and I provided her with an envelope containing 12 car registration sheets. She promptly retrieved them and kissed me on the cheek. There are numerous types of lawyers. Harry was a personal injury lawyer. I requested an explanation, but she merely smiled and inquired about the cost. In response, I was kissed on the cheek. 3 days later, I received a call from my daughter, Linda. Donna had contacted her to ascertain my whereabouts. There was a significant issue at Donna's workplace, and she was directly involved. She was dissatisfied and requested an immediate conversation. Linda declined to provide any information. I am uncertain as to whether Glenn obtained the valve stems. I contacted Harry and informed him that I would collect Linda in 20 minutes. Her office was situated within an upscale shopping center. It was a pleasant location, though not ostentatious. Harry had never observed a Challenger before. The sound of the engine immediately captured his attention. A few curious individuals from her office observed her as she exited the vehicle. I approached the car to open the door for her and smiled at the bystanders. Harry laughed as she entered the vehicle. "I suppose you desire an engagement ring now." "In due time, take your time," I replied. I maintained control of the Challenger. I maintained control until we crossed the Tennessee River, then began to accelerate slightly. Highway 72 leading into Huntsville is a suitable stretch of road for demonstrating the vehicle's capabilities, although it is not the optimal location for such an endeavor. 2 hours later, we were already situated in dreamland. It is possible that the individuals present at the cabin that night may have been served food today. I am at a loss as to what you mean by served. It is my understanding that this is a lawsuit. The actual term is malicious behavior contributing to the deterioration of a marriage. Does such a thing really exist? It appears that all the necessary categories have been met. Their behavior was intentional, it was extreme, and it caused you severe emotional distress. This must be why. My wife was upset. I am unclear as to what you mean by, your wife was upset. My daughter, Linda, called me today and said Donna needed to talk to me. There was a significant issue at work, and Donna was somehow involved in it. I am unaware of any other details. Glenn Simpson and Gilbert Industries are being sued for $1 million. The other 11 individuals are being sued for $100 each. I am not attempting to be impertinent, but do you genuinely believe that this will prove an effective strategy? Undoubtedly, it may not be as straightforward as it initially appears, but I anticipate that some intriguing developments may emerge. As we departed the restaurant, I was somewhat apprehensive, so I inquired in a nonchalant manner whether she wished to proceed to a hotel room and return in the morning. She indicated that she would like to do so but was unable to. I suggested that we leave immediately, but she was reluctant to do so. Instead, she requested that I explain everything to her. On the return journey, the vehicle was relatively silent for the first 20 minutes, before becoming noticeably more animated. It transpired that 8 years ago, Harry had a body mass index of almost 30, and elected to pursue a course of dietary and exercise-based weight loss rather than undergo bypass surgery. She successfully shed 140 pounds, but unfortunately, she experienced complications from excess skin, necessitating 5 surgical procedures to remove the surplus tissue. As a result, she now bears extensive scarring across her body. Harry is a courageous and outspoken individual, but she conceded that she is highly self-conscious. Aware of her physical imperfections, she eschewed romantic involvement and limited her interactions with male friends. Despite her reservations, she felt at ease with me. I accompanied her to her residence, escorted her to the door, and kissed her lightly on the cheek. She expressed gratitude for the food. As I departed, she shed a tear. We continued our amicable dating relationship. Both parties appeared content with the arrangement. Nick Jack's Market was a popular establishment among the local community. In less than 2 years, they had expanded their operations with the addition of 2 new stores. The proprietors were serious when they offered me I was promoted to the position of inventory manager for all 3 units. However, the company insisted that I become a permanent employee, which meant that I had to be fully legalized at this point. I agreed, as both Harry and I were content with the decision. A few more weeks passed, and I did not hear from my daughters for quite a while. Then, I received a brief text message stating that my daughter had been fired. This made things a little more complicated, as I was now employed full-time. I was gainfully employed with a respectable salary, and Donna was no longer working at that juncture. I was concerned that I might be subjected to penalties in the dissolution of marriage proceedings. Harry proffered some encouraging information. I was gratified to learn that 3 of the 11 individuals we had sued had reached settlements. However, I was perplexed by the implications of this development, given that our initial lawsuit sought only $100 in damages. The insurance companies advised them to simply pay the claim and avoid a public lawsuit. As the incident was covered by insurance, it was not a significant financial loss for them. It would appear that we could receive some compensation. I have already received 3 checks, and there will probably be more. Do you believe that Donna's dismissal may be connected to this? Naturally, this will have an impact on the divorce proceedings. Have you submitted the relevant documentation yet? No, I have not yet done so. I was hoping you would be willing to assist me with that. Harry smiled. William, please pack a small bag and prepare the Challenger for travel. We intend to visit your wife. We will leave at an early hour on Thursday morning. I was smiling. We departed at 6 a.m., we checked into the Sharon Hotel. 10 hours later, I contacted Linda and requested that she take Donna and Lara to lunch at the Reading Motor Inn. The following day, our conversation at dinner was somewhat awkward. Our discussion was diverse and perplexing, as we were both cautious to circumvent the elephant in the room. We had spent our first night together in over a year. We had been friends without benefits, and it was my intention that she should not feel uncomfortable. I will not go into the details of the evening, however, I will say that it was nowhere near as traumatic as we had expected. We were both a little rusty, but we managed to get through it with good results. She seemed relieved that I was not disgusted, and I was happy that it was not as bad as she had made me think it was. We were a couple of happy fools in the morning. We had a late breakfast. Upon our arrival, the girls were already waiting for us at the table. I was attired in one of my new sport coats with a dark turtleneck, which I felt was a suitable ensemble for the occasion. Harry was wearing one of her light business suits, which I perceived to be a somewhat casual yet professional choice of attire. My wife and daughters regarded me with astonishment. "This is Harriet Parker," I said, introducing her to my wife and daughters. "She is my confidante and attorney." The introduction was somewhat awkward, but it was the best I could do before we could devolve into meaningless chatter. The waiter arrived to take our orders. I informed him that I was not hungry and requested a coffee. Donna stated that the waiter nodded, and the group seemed to collectively relax. "It was a pleasure to see you again, Bill. Could you tell us about what you have been doing over the past few years?" Donna expressed a hint of amusement as she posed this question. Harry lightly tapped me on the knee. "The table. I required your presence, yet you departed. Perhaps you sought another individual, but not me." "Dad," Linda interjected, attempting to dissipate the tension. "I am certain you did not arrange this meeting to engage in idle chatter." "Dad, why are we here?" Laura inquired, with remarkable persistence. I glanced at Harry, seeking insight on how to proceed. She ignored me but assumed control of the conversation. Harry reached into her purse and retrieved an envelope, which she then placed before me. Harry then placed the document on the table in front of Donna Smith. "This is a divorce petition," he stated. "I believe you will find it to be quite fair. I suggest that you take it to your attorney for further review." Lara and Linda appeared astonished. They had not anticipated this turn of events. However, Donna seemed pleased. She smiled broadly and did not immediately take the envelope from Harry. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled one out. "Months ago, I was unaware of the correct address to send it to, so I did not receive a copy. However, that is now irrelevant. You have no claim to it." My smile broadened into a grin. The waiter returned with our coffee in a full table vase, just as Donna stood up. She smiled at Harry and me and gave the girls a strange look before walking away. She left both envelopes on the table. My son asked if we could stay for lunch. "I heard they have excellent custard pie." Laura inquired about the quality of the custard pie, to which Harry and I responded with laughter and a request for the menu. Harry, Laura, and Linda enjoyed a pleasant lunch and conversation. I experienced a sense of isolation, as though I were dining alone. I have always struggled to comprehend women. The girls exchanged phone numbers and pledged to maintain communication. Back in my room, I began the process of packing my belongings. I had assumed that we would be staying for one additional night. However, that was not the case. I urged him to expedite the packing process. An hour and 30 minutes later, we arrived in Elton, Maryland. 30 minutes after that, Harriet Parker transformed into Harry Smith. We spent the night in Lure, Virginia. We have a house with a 3, the garage is a different matter entirely. The girl informed me that Donna had suffered a seizure upon learning that I had received over $2 million from Gilbert Industries. Donna subsequently relocated to Iowa, although the reason for this is unclear. This story is particularly intriguing as it illustrates how our decisions and encounters can significantly impact our lives.